Hello, my name is Alan, and I came down with what I thought was just a really bad ear infection. Had gone to the doctor, they had prescribed amoxicillin for an ear infection. Didn't sit right with though this ear infection was just too intense. So I went to a second doctor who took a look and said, you've got shingles on your face. This is not an ear infection, and now you have facial shingles. So, what let me know this was not an ear infection was, first of all, the pain was more intense than I've ever had inside of my head. And then furthermore, these blisters were forming on my face, and that's what led them to know that this was not an ear infection. So when I learned that I had shingles on my face, I did research on the internet, and I learned that there's something called Ramsay Hunt Syndrome. That's what happens when you have shingles on your face. Generally, facial paralysis on half of your face happens, and you can't smile on that side or blink or do anything else on that side. I wasn't there yet, but I could tell it was going in that direction because the pain was so intense, and it was all down the facial nerve into the jaw, and the skin with the blisters was beginning to lose feeling, and a complete numbness was taking over. At that time, I also learned that they needed to make sure that the shingles virus was not getting into other nerves. So it was in the facial nerve, but they needed to make sure it didn't get into the optic nerve and others, making sure it doesn't come to the nose, which then will cause potentially losing eyesight or even losing your eye. At that point, I could not hear out of this ear much at all. The swelling and everything was just intense inside the ear canal, where the blisters were continuing and on the eardrum actually. So once I got diagnosed with shingles, then the normal prescription was to start an antiviral, valacyclovir, and do 3 times a day, 1 gram of it for 7 days. So I did that and saw the symptoms start to abate after about 48 hours, 72 hours. They started to get better. It was a very slow progress though, and after the 7 days, everyone was saying to me, "Oh, you're all better now, aren't you?" And I said, "I'm 85%. Turned out that after a few more days, that remaining 15% began to increase and was getting back to just as bad as it had been. At which point, I recontacted my primary care doctor, who indicated that there's nothing more they can do. Of course, I had been researching online, and I had joined a Ramsay Hunt Syndrome Facebook group where people said, "Oh, there's much more you can do." And for instance, you can continue taking antivirals, you can do steroids. I really didn't want to take steroids. Just heard so many bad things about them. And so instead of that, I was actually speaking with my physical therapist, who said, laser is something that can help you here, laser treatment. So I said, I'm up for anything. Let's do this. This pain is incredible. It's coming back. The doctors aren't listening. So hearing about laser, I of course went back to the internet and looked that up and found that it's this thing called cold laser. It might be called low light therapy, various names, but I actually found research, some from Japan in the 1980s, helping people with facial paralysis using laser, of all things. And then I found some other articles more recent, within the last 4 or 5 years, demonstrating or studies that say laser helps with facial paralysis. So I said, well, let's try this, Though it's not something that is very known. It's the first I had really heard of it. A few people I spoke with had talked about it as something they had heard of, and it looks like in the United Kingdom and in Japan and in Canada, it is something that's well known outside of America. So I was very fortunate to be able to try this and get on it. So all during this, I had been taking as a pain medication ibuprofen, 800 milligrams, probably 4 or 5 times a day, very carefully to make sure I didn't take too much. And still the pain, that would just barely touch it and allow me to rest for a couple of hours before it would start to wane and the pain would come back. When I started the laser treatment, the pain level decreased within 12 hours. Even almost immediate, there was some relief. And we did several laser sessions over the course of another week and a half, and maybe we did 5 sessions or 6 sessions. Meanwhile, the blisters were healing. The laser was able to penetrate inside my ear canal, which nothing could get. I couldn't put any ointment, I couldn't put any ice, I couldn't really get that to feel any better, but laser was able to reach in there and do that non-invasively. Finally, after 5 or 6 laser treatments, we spaced them out a little bit, and I found that everything really was great. In terms of the virus itself, it was gone, and what I needed was to really just continue to bring the nerve and the flesh, the tissues back online, back into a healthy state. And so the laser that was trickling off was able to do that. And somehow it really just felt like the flesh was coming back to life almost. It was the nerves would start to tingle, they would start to feel cool instead of pain. And then now we're about 2 months later, and everything feels really great. I really don't have any lingering symptoms from the nerve. And of course, long-term damage was my fear, because the statistics say that 70% of people with facial nerve shingles make out okay in the long term, but 30% do sustain permanent damage that will never go away, whether it's hearing loss, or other portions of the facial nerve and the tissues being damaged. So here I am 2 months later, and it's all gone. I really feel 100% healed. Those laser treatments, what were there, 7 treatments spread out over 10 days or so, really I think are what made it turn the corner, and I would recommend that to anyone who's got facial shingles of the facial nerve, or shingles really anywhere. I think it works on the trunk or any other place that shingles appear.
My goal is to strive to get accessible healthcare to pretty much anybody. Through the destination therapy, we offer these kind of services at this level to people pretty much anywhere. You could do a trip down here. We can treat you daily or twice daily. Here in Wilmington, we can also set up any of our destination packages where, for instance, we can travel to Mexico for a week. You can take a vacation, bring your family along, and then we can address any issue you may have. Please visit our website at www.ThriveToThrive.com for details, or you can email me at jonpt@live.com, and we can discuss any needs that you may have or any condition that we might be able to treat and help you.